Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Wonder Woman 1984 on HBO Max. And I had even a hell of a time trying to figure out how to fucking get that thing to work, but I did. They need to fucking streamline that shit. It was just really freaking weird to figure out how to muck around with that, but I'm glad I didn't see this in theaters. Because this was not good. I mean, if you liked it, that's cool. All right. My goal is never to take people's enjoyment from things. Like, there's certain things that are good that I don't like. I'm not really that into like a Clockwork Orange or some other kind of movies. I just because I'm not into them doesn't mean that they're bad. But this, oh god, it was fucking bag of cats, man. Like fucking nuts. Well, I can understand what they were trying to get across with the whole plot of like truth and lies, but everything was just so haphazardly thrown together that it is hard to even keep track of all the insanity that goes on. And especially when you get to the end of this movie, you're like, okay, this is set in 1984. How do none of these events ever get brought up ever in like Justice League or whatnot? Because they go into some weird ass kind of places and then be like, that kind of lady's kind of dressed up like that lady that kind of was in DC doing some stuff back then, man. That's kind of weird, don't you think? Hmm? But we'll get to that. So, this movie starts off doing another flashback to Diana when she's younger. And the gist of this whole thing is to be like, no true hero is born from lies. And Diana's lie would have been missing a fucking thing and trying to come in first. But I'm like, if you've got anybody doing a judging thing in this whole kind of weird pentathlon, triathlon kind of contest thing going on, you know, like, she didn't fucking hit the thing, she doesn't get that. Oh. It's a really weird way of being like, there's no overt showing or telling that Diana is trying to deceive anyone on anything. She's just trying to get to the finish line, forgetting that she has to hit the goddamn fucking weird ass hoop thing that will fucking tell someone to wave a flag to make her colored fucking drape thing longer. I know that sounds completely strange, but that's kind of what we're watching. They're in this like giant kind of stadium thing doing these weird fucking things. And even though I'm able to convey the point that it overtly has to tell you at that point, I'm just sitting there being like, we didn't need this. Like, at all. Like, at all. I'm just like, okay, that's not off to a good start. And especially, we see a trend of what's going on throughout this movie. You get action scenes that don't really pull you in. Again, I have to reiterate kind of my stance on action scenes. They are not just some weird vessel to do a cool thing. Granted, they can do that. But the overall goal of an action scene is to communicate something. Okay? Whether that be the protagonist's kind of goal of what they are willing to do to achieve something in kicking ass and taking names, like in John Wick, or like an antagonist's role, kind of like with Thanos in his complete and utter takedown of like the Hulk in Infinity War, and subsequently all of the things that he can do to take down the rest of the Avengers as he tries to get his win in that movie. action scenes are supposed to convey something. They're not just supposed to be there to be like, oh, that's kind of cool, and to turn your brain off. Those are not the best executed action scenes. And here you get a lot of what the fuck kind of things going on that just they don't really communicate anything. It's just like, oh, here's this cool kind of thing. They do sometimes showcase some kind of character thing going on, but they do it almost like, oh, we need this at this point to communicate what we're trying to do. And that gets into just like, okay, so then you're fillering with action. It's really weird. Really weird. And I like weird ass, strange, bad action movies too, because, like, okay, that's kind of stupid, but you did something interesting. Hopefully, somebody can execute that a little bit better. But, like, with this whole thing, I understand you're trying to show Diana as a little kid going up against all these great Amazonian warriors, and then she gets knocked off of her horse, slides down a slide thing, and pretty much catches up to him, but forgets her ring thing. I'm like, okay? If she hadn't run the course before, maybe she didn't know about the other ring thing. It's really kind of strange because it doesn't show her actively being in part of these lies kind of thing before. And I think one of the kind of ideas that they're trying to get through is that Diana, like, lies and just hides all the stuff that she's doing as Wonder Woman. That would have been an interesting kind of thing for them to kind of explore. But no, that doesn't. They instead go on a weird kind of, alright, you know those, like, moral lessons, those after school special kind of things? That's pretty much this whole movie, but amped to every fucking degree of, like, we're going big, boy. And it's like, oh, Jesus! You needed to work on this a little more. Oh, my God. So, after Diana's flashback that really doesn't need to be there, we then get into 1984, and we see all of these 80s things, and it's like, okay, I understand trying to set you in the time period and everything, and then it just goes off. Like, she will do weird things of, like, kicking a car out of the way before, like, it tries and hits someone, and then we get this whole mall action scene where it is the weirdest fucking thing possible. I mean, granted, that's kind of how this escalation goes, but evidently this group was hired to rob this jewelry store. And evidently they've got this black market's good thing going on in the back, so they go in, they're grabbing all this shit, and they're gonna get going. And one of the dudes pretty much gets made because he had dropped his gun because the plot demanded. He's like, oh, like, the mall cops are like, hey, stop there. And his fucking idea is to take a kid and hold him over a banister, very reminiscent of, like, the whole Michael Jackson blanket kind of scenario. And I'm just thinking, okay, it was really kind of strange because I'm thinking, okay, this is a criminal dude, and in order to try and escape, he is going to put himself in a position where if he moves from that position, he's fucked. And he has no chance of escape. He's essentially entrapped himself into a no-win scenario. And I'm just like, okay. Have at thee. So then Wonder Woman comes in, does her kind of crazy-ass shit, because it looks cool. That's pretty much it. We get her, like, sliding a kid, acting all winky hammy, and the thing is, I don't have a problem with cheese or camp. It's the execution of it that needs to be on point. Adam West Batman is fucking great because it knows what it is and executes it well. Seeing Adam West running around with a bomb and a fuse going down, and like, sometimes you can't just get rid of a bomb. And shark repellent and the Batcopter and all that shit can work when the film understands what it is. Here, it wants the cheesy campy tone and the serious shit going on at the same time and not really explaining a lot of shit. And it has to go into certain weird details for certain other things and explain things. And I'm like, you could have done better on this. So she's winking and like telling people to be quiet. Like the little girl, like she like uses her tiara thing to like take out 3 security cams, and I'm like, would it have more security cams or not in the 80s? I'm like, I don't care. This movie is certainly not going in the right direction of what is going on with this, so let's just see how it works. And by the way, even though I'm going into these problems, I do not hate DC. Okay? Even though I'm more partial to Marvel, I want good DC movies. I want both fandoms to get good movies, and I want to rock that shit like a motherfucker and be like, yay, 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 it's good. This movie just kind of proved that almost like good DC movies happen accidentally, and that if you keep hitting misses more often than you're hitting hits, you have to look at something and they just like, oh, okay, because I liked Wonder Woman, and this was just like, whoa, what did you do? So she captured them and like thunder dropped them onto a police car. I say thunder dropped them because it fucking like destroyed the car. I mean, even Spider-Man, in instances when he's delivering people to the cops, didn't just fucking like spike a motherfucker into a police car. I'm like, Jesus Christ. But then we see that she is living in D.C. and is employed by the Smithsonian and just doing her own kind of thing. We then see this woman, Minerva, played by Kristen Wiig. And she's kind of just the weird kind of eclectic kind of stock nerd, for lack of a better term, because they really go hambo-jambo on the 80s kind of stuff, and she's like all kind of like wearing the kind of fashion that would make her look kind of weird at that point. Not weird, but you know what I mean, 80s style-wise, whenever you see a movie that's like, hey, here's this kind of nerd kind of person. Huh, okay, they obviously look like they wear the exact same kind of clothes. But she's going in, her briefcase kind of breaks open, and Diana kind of helps her out and everything. Fucking, she's like, yeah, and like all this kind of stuff and the other, and even the person that hired her couldn't even remember her, and I'm like, okay, really? Granted, that's one moment of unbelievability that like starts breaking stuff, and I'm like, you specifically interviewed her and hired her for a certain thing. That's just okay. I understand trying to sell that this person is unremarkable and everything, but okay. And evidently she's comes back like, oh yeah, you, the FBI wants your help looking into these certain things. It's like, okay, see this kind of stone kind of thing, and Diana can like read the Latin on it. It's like a dreamstone kind of thing, and she wishes for Steve back because she's been pining for him. We see her like eating alone, that kind of stuff. So she really has been taking it hard since World War One, and just not really been doing much except doing her Wonder Woman and stuff and all that. And I'm like, oh, it'd be better to kind of show that a little bit more. And that would be more of an interesting kind of story. But here we are. So then we see that Minerva mucks with it and wishes to be like Diana, and then we see that it becomes kind of similar to a kind of monkey's paw kind of scenario where you get kind of what you wish for, but not in the way that you really wanted it to. We also get this other character, Max Lord, who is this dude for like this black gold company, oil kind of dude, always on TV and everything, and he is trying to be a kind of patron of the Smithsonian kind of stuff. He's really looking at that kind of stone kind of stuff, and he's just, yeah, cool, all right, do it in, do the kind of party thing, and I'll meet you there, Diana and Minerva and all that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, cool. And then we get his whole story of he's got all these oil properties that aren't producing oil, and evidently he's putting his last kind of stuff into trying to find the Dreamstone to make that kind of work out. And you got a cool thing. He's I don't really put it past any of the actors with this, I understand that this is mainly a whole thing of the content being crap, because I've seen the actor of Max Lord in other properties, and he's a lot better than the content he's given here. But he's trying to make everything work out for his son and everything, and one of his investors pretty much like, this is a Ponzi scheme. I was like, yeah, it's a Ponzi scheme. But, of course, Diana tries to figure out kind of what's going on, goes to the party. Minerva is pretty much turning into sexy Diana-like kind of person, and is in like this cool ass dress and everything, and pretty much starts like kissing Max when he's like, well, of course she's doing the whole nerd kind of talk first and everything, but he's like, hey, show me this thing, and he's able to take it from her while macking on her. And at this party, Diana runs into Steve, who is inhabiting another dude's body, and we then see that it is Chris Pine takes over throughout the whole thing. Now, this becomes very fucking problematic, because she then leaves and goes to bed with Steve. And it's pretty much like great, because now they don't even really delve into it in the movie, but I'm like, Steve is inhabiting another dude's body. And they don't fucking question it or anything like that. Like, I would think that Wonder Woman would be like, that's not right, I shouldn't do this stuff, this is another person's body. Alright? But, nope, we're just gonna fucking gloss right over that, and it's like, oh, Jesus, that's fucking, nope. Fuck, no. Well, from any other kind of character stuff, because if this was just an episodic thing, or actually its own first movie, we would still be like, that's kind of iffy, but we've seen them in the first movie, and both of them should be like, this isn't right, I've got this other dude's body, we really shouldn't do any kind of weird stuff. But nope, they get together, and I was like, that's not right, man. That's not right, that ain't cool. No. Ugh. And then they have to do a fucking montage of getting Steve dressed up in 80s clothes, and it's just like, okay, this isn't interesting. So you're essentially swapping it. It's really kind of crazy, because you're swapping it for Diana being brought into the World War One world, and then Steve being brought into the 80s, and it's just not that interesting. And the dialogue in this does not work whatsoever. It's like just so uninteresting, and just you really don't get a sense of the characters. You're just like, oh, okay, yeah, I had like 3 Pop-Tarts. Alright. What does that tell me? That you like them? He doesn't even comment on like, Pop-Tarts, these are fucking great things, man. You don't even know like what flavor, what the fuck's going on with it. But you're just like, okay. So they're trying to figure out what's going on with this whole Dreamstone thing, because Max Lord had gotten it, and he decided to wish himself to become the stone. And I'm like, that's why would you do that? And then he starts pretty much trying to become a wish, like the Dreamstone, Wishstone kind of thing, to other people, and it just escalates. Now, the thing is, they're go in, they find out, it's like, oh shit, this is kind of like my lasso of truth kind of thing, where it's like a distillation of something, like a universal kind of truth kind of thing. It's like, okay, cool, understand that. Kind of almost similar to the Infinity Stones, they're distillation of a certain kind of aspect of reality or whatnot. Okay, cool. But, it really gets strange in that, I guess, evidently, you could have it as, whenever he makes a wish, he gets physically weakened. And I guess it could go with the whole monkey's paw scenario, where that's his thing that he's got to lose, but it could also be like what he's doing and becoming in regards to his son. It's just like, okay, the stone wasn't like breaking or cracking or anything like that. It's really kind of strange. you kind of need to be able to show different kind of things going on with those, or sometimes even explicitly have to tell something out. Now, completely and utterly exposition dumping and vomiting certain facts, you don't need to do that necessarily. It's how you execute it. It's like you need a balance of showing and telling. Usually it's better to show something than to tell something, unless it's such a concept that you have to tell somebody, like, oh, this is a universal truth kind of thing. And we see that Diana's having problems with her powers. It's like, okay, that's probably what's going on with her thing. And goes through. We see Minerva dealing with her stuff because she dealt with a dude that was creeping on her. Diana helped her ass out, and she fucking kicks the dude a couple times. And the dude that this homeless dude that she helps, I was like, what's going on with you, Minerva? And like, back the fuck off. As she's like researching this stuff to kind of help Diana with what's going on. And Maxwell Lord's just going the fuck around. He gets the oil thing from the Ponzi dude, and the thing is, he's able to take whatever he wants in regards to the monkey paws kind of thing going on, and he gets like arrested for tax evasion. He starts going around to all these other things, getting them from all these people. He evidently decides to go to Cairo to get more oil from this one dude. He's like, oh yeah, give me, what do you wish? For my homeland to be back and the infidels to be gone, or the heathens or whatnot. It's like, oh, okay. Done. And you'll give me all your oil. I sold my oil to all these other kind of people, like in Saudi Arabia. I was like, all right, I'll take your security force. And then all the issues go on with that. It's like, okay, how does that... We don't understand what his goals are after a certain point. He just starts acquiring more and more and more. And that's not a bad thing, but it's not as effectively communicated as what's going on. So Diana and Steve figure out that they're doing stuff in Cairo, and she like shows them about like space and shit. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. And they're like, yeah, we gotta get to Cairo. So they fucking steal a fighter jet and in DC and fly it to Cairo. But first, Diana is able to somehow figure out how her father was able to hide Themyscira. Hide her home island. Shit. Themyscira. Fuck. I am having a hard ass fucking. Her home island in that whole kind of mirage kind of thing, and is able to turn the jet invisible. Never mind the fact that they leave the jet at some point, or somehow able to fucking find it again. But again, I don't mind fan service, but this one was poorly executed. She's like, oh yeah, I did this once with a cup and I couldn't find it again. I'm like, okay. And then she's like, oh yeah, let's go through those fireworks as it's the 4th of July. I'm like, yeah, and they fucking hit the plane and fucking do shit. And it's like, hey, look, there's that plane that was stolen and it's somehow fucking invisible. Themyscira. Ah. Fuck, man. Island. Shit. Ugh. So they somehow get to Cairo without refueling. And somehow get back as well. But they get there, they see all that stuff. They go after Max Lord as he's in his convoy. And the thing is, he's like, oh, take their asses out. It's like, why are you doing that? Just because we did an action chase sequence. And we see her doing such weird shit as we see that her powers are being diminished and she gets hit and she gets hurt and stuff like that. She does weird fucking shit with a bullet, and she fucking like uses a rocket grenade to kind of fucking fly because, oh my god, one of the weirdest fucking cliche tropes of, okay, they are in the middle of no fucking where on a road that's stretching for miles, and they come up at a certain point and there's kids fucking playing in the road, and I'm just like, so she's gotta tie her lasso around a grenade and fly out and like get him out of the way, and I'm like, just like, we're really doing this? Alright. He fucking goes off wishing a lot of stuff. He's like, I need to get more wishes and stuff because his body's breaking down, so he's going to be taking the health from people. I'm like, alright, cool. So he goes to essentially the Ronald Reagan president. His kid wants to know what's going on, but he's like, no, your daddy won't be a loser or anything like that. It's going to be great. He's like, I wish for your greatness. Oh, thank you, kid. And he keeps trying to get more wishes from people, and I'm just like, I understand that he kind of needs it to a certain point to try and like keep himself alive, but it's like, alright. Yeah, you gave me a portion, all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh yeah, alright, cool. A lot of interns want that because his company has grown exponentially because of the oil and everything, and decides to go to the White House. At this point, Diana and Steve come back to the U.S. and get an info dump along with Minerva about that the Dreamstone, because they needed contact. Minerva gave him the information that the last known coordinates of what the Dreamstone was like the ancient Mayan civilization. So they go to a dude that was talking about the kind of stuff that had the Dreamstone pretty much on a flyer thing, and evidently it's linked to Dolus, the god of lies, and that their only options were to destroy the Dreamstone or renounce their wishes, and they weren't able to do either, so their civilization was destroyed. I'm like, this is pretty much getting into a world-ending fucking event, but fucking details. Minerva's like, I ain't about that shit, and Diana's like, I'm not giving up Steve, even though that would mean that she has fucking jacked that other dude's body, and Steve has jacked that other dude's body, but hey, moral implications, yeah, you're losing your powers too, and that would fucking suck because you could actually do some stuff to help the world. Granted, I understand love and all that, but he was dead. And you're doing shit that's fucking up you, it's fucking up this other dude, and it's fucking up the world, so I'm just like, the price is too damn high. But they're like, we'll try and find something else out, but Minerva's like, I ain't dealing with this shit. So we see that Max goes to the President Reagan dude, kind of dude, and he's like, hey, Mr. President, what do you wish for? More nuclear weapons. And he's like, alright, yeah, and I am now the most powerful person in the world, and what's this thing? It's pretty much a satellite array that will let you beam into, like, all of the world's televisions. Oh, yeah, okay. Take me here. So that way I can touch everybody. Because evidently he's got to touch people for this shit to work. And, yes, this works out for him. But, evidently, the monkey's paw thing for this is that the Soviet Union's like, they got more fucking nukes! Fire your nukes! And it's like, blah, 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 blah. They're getting ready to fucking launch shit and everything. And I was like, oh, this is fucking nuts. And they get to the White House to kind of see what's going on. They try and capture Lord. We get another kind of weird-ass action sequence where we get another kind of bullet lasso kind of thing going on. And we see that her powers are kind of course, still going further down. They almost catch Lord, but Minerva pops in and is like, I ain't letting you do this shit, and pretty much beats her ass. And she tries to do some of her kind of godly powers, but of course they're weak as shit. She's like, no, I'm going back. She's like, what happened to you? You used to be kind and everything like that. It's like, I don't give a shit. And then she goes off with Max Lord to pretty much become an apex predator with his, like, thing with his wishing. I'm like, okay. Alright. And then that's how we get her into, like, cheetah mode. That's what being an apex predator means. But I would think that being an apex predator of, like, advancedly civilized life would be something more along the lines of Q from Star Trek rather than a fucking cat's reject. Which, by the way, really kind of threw me off because when she eventually gets to that point and her and Diana are fighting, because of all the weird shit that I was hearing about with cats, I'm like, they for some reason had like cat buttholes in that movie and someone had to digitally remove the cat buttholes. I'm like, did they think about that when they were making this? And when an action sequence is going on, if I'm going to that kind of route, you have not done your action job properly to bring me into this conflict that's going on. But I have been bored and incredulous throughout this whole kind of thing, so it's not much changed for this. So he goes to the island and pretty much is able to do his thing as the world kind of devolves into like, hey, I wish that you were all gone. Like, all the Irish people were like out of this one place. I wish you dropped dead. What? Holy shit. Everything like going completely nuts. Some dude getting a farm with cows like near his place. Everything just going completely and utterly hambo jambo. So Diana's like, I need to do this. I'm sorry, Steve. And of course, renounces her wish. She gets her powers back. She goes and finds this armor that she had. Steve was like, what the fuck's in this? Because she's got a 80 tech kind of bat cave where she's able to look up all this kind of stuff. And she's got this armor from this Amazonian warrior, Asteria, who, when all the Amazonians were kind of escaping, she stayed behind in this armor to kind of stop them, and she was presumed dead. She wasn't able to find the body, but found the armor. We'll get to that later. But she goes, gets that armor, flies the island, and we see Minerva is in cheetah form, and they just kind of do some weird shit. Like, she bangs the shit out of her, like, wing things. Those drop off. Then they kind of, like, do some weird shit on, like, an electric wire, and she just fucking kind of, like, electric tases Minerva and then goes in. And then she knocks the, camera down, and you'd think that fucking stop shit. But it doesn't for some reason. Because Max Lord just stands in this weird kind of glowy thing that is supposedly still broadcasting this shit going on. Why is this important? Because the whole thing with the whole satellite thing was so that way he could touch everybody. And to do that, he'd have to be fucking seen on the TV, evidently, instead of actually physically touching people. I don't understand what this fucking shit goes with anymore, because the plot demands that it happens like this. He's like, oh, you can't get anywhere near me because of the whole flippy wind thing, because of all the wishes. Everybody wants more, and I can give that to them, and I can get that from them. And she evidently puts on the lasso, him with the lasso of truth, and is able to talk to everybody, even though no kind of recording device that I have seen is putting this out whatsoever. So how she's talking to people and be like, please renounce your wishes, be the hero, pretty much is like, I wasn't talking to you. And Lord thinks that she's talking to him, and she's like, nah, fam, I'm talking to them. And even though I don't know how she's fucking talking to them. Then, of course, he remembers his son and all the stuff that he used to do. He's like, I renounce my wish. And that kind of starts fixing everything. All the nukes pretty much go away. We see Minerva's pretty much back into a regular kind of way. And everything gets back to kind of normal. And the end, we kind of see it's around Christmas time. And Diana's kind of taking it in, and we see the dude that had been possessed by Steve, and he's wearing the outfit that Diana would have picked for him. And she's like, yeah, you look really nice. I'm like, hey, thanks, you just made my day. And he then walks away, and then she's like looking up and pans out. It's like, alright. And Lord, of course, reunites with his son. He's like, I'm sorry. I've done all these bad things, but I love you. And, well, okay. I kind of get what they were trying to do with, like, greed and the kind of general attitude of the 80s, but it was just so farcical to a degree that it's like, and so disjointed and improperly executed that it's just like, yeah, I understand what you're trying to say, and you just did not say it well whatsoever. And we get an after credit scene where we see someone who kind of looks like Diana from behind. This, like, pole was about to, like, fall in this baby carriage, and she's able to stop. She's like, oh, thank you, what's your name? And it's Asteria, played by Linda Carter, who had played Wonder Woman in the TV show. And I don't mind that cameo. I don't mind that fan service. It's just improperly executed because it's right at the end here, and nothing is truly done with it. I'm like, even the Stan Lee cameos fit more of a bill of, like, what was going on. I'm like, you could have done more with this. And never mind the fact that she's running around. I'm like, sweet Jesus, she could have been doing some stuff as well. Now, granted, we are shown that she did something, but I'm like, what about World War One? She could have, like, helped Diana with some of that shit. It's just like, oh, God, it just... it makes more problems than is needed. Like, people could have looked at this and been like, okay, I understand what the general gist is, but we need to really fine-tune this, and just people didn't. And they're evidently greenlit for a third one. And I'm like, shit. I mean, there's a chance that it could be good, but this was just. And I'm glad I didn't go to the theaters for this. I'm glad I was able to watch it through a streaming service that we pretty much already had because we had an HBO subscription through a TV provider. So if you got HBO through your TV provider, you go through a weird fucking process, and I'm like, okay, ooh, ooh, I'm glad. That's like, I know with everything going on, if you can watch it through HBO Max throughout no kind of extra kind of issues on your part, go for HBO Max. All right. Uh, Also, because for HBO Max, you can watch other kind of movies because they're putting Dune, Matrix 4, all different kind of stuff that are coming out in 2021 on there. So it's like, okay, that's more of an interesting thing. But even throughout all that, it was like a 2 hour and 30 some minute movie, and even though I didn't pay a movie price for it, I want that time back. I'm like, nope. Even with all the good things that the actors and like the set and costuming could have done, oh, big oof. Yep. I really think that they need to they need to completely change who is able to make creative decisions or whatnot with the DC universe, because when you are lucky to get good movies out of what your process is rather than like bad movies, like, okay, bad luck, here's what we got. Okay. When it's luck that's like, hey, okay, we got some good DC movies here. It's just nuts. Like, they don't learn. They keep making the same fucking mistakes. And it's just goddamn tired. The weird tones, everything of like serious and goofy. And the thing is, they can work together. Alright? Can work together. But you have to work on it and make sure that it's got that synergy going. That one doesn't screw over the other. It is a hard balancing act. And I understand that. I acknowledge it. And I applaud good faith attempts to do it. I don't see how that attempt was made here. So, I would not recommend going to the theaters for this. If you're able to somehow get HBO Max on like a free trial, well, that's the thing. I don't know if you can watch this on a free trial. And it's only there for like 31 days or something, starting from like Christmas. If you got HBO, you got access to it. So, and access through your TV provider. Look it up that way. And if you want to watch it, go for it. There's other things that you can watch on there and other things you can look forward to, should you wish. But, I really even wouldn't recommend this to Wonder Woman fans or DC fans. It's just like, you don't understand what you're trying to accomplish with these characters, because it's really, I can understand what they're trying to put in the concept of like truth and lies and all that kind of thing with Diana and everything on here. But I don't even know what they were trying to accomplish with her character in this. I'm like, okay. It just felt like weird random shit that just rammed together because the plot demanded it, because it's like, oh, okay. And when I'm thinking, I kind of would have been able to come up better things with like playing with my toys as a kid. That's a sad thought. And I just want better. That's all I ask. I'm like, I'm not asking for perfection completely and utterly. There are good things that can happen with slight, weird, strange things that can occur within a film or on a TV show. But this is just like, so. If you're die-hard Wonder Woman fan, die-hard DC, you have to watch every movie. You will find some enjoyment out of this, probably. But other than that, when it gets to a point that you could rent it or watch it on TV, and you really, really feel like you want to watch it or anything, go for it. Otherwise, it would be more background kind of thing going on for background noise. Because the character development, not good. The action's not good. And that's pretty much my opinions on it. So those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.